Okay, we're live. Good evening. Good evening. Hello, everyone. This is the Parks and Public Works Recreation and Environment Committee of Wednesday, November 10th, 2021. We are, let me read the appropriate thing. We are streaming on HPA-TV, Comcast, and Frontier Government channels 96 and 6032. It'll also stream via hptv.org, the HPA-TV Facebook page, and HPA-TV's Roku TV, Apple TV, and Amazon apps. It will also be rebroadcast and made available on HPA-TV YouTube channel. Well, that's always a mouthful. With us this evening are Councilman LeBron, who is a voting member, Councilman Gale, who is a voting member, Councilwoman Surgeon, who is not a voting member but loves the committee, Director Looney, Deputy Director Mailer, Mark, I forgot your title, Mr. Dowd from Parks, from Recreation, from Parks and Recreation, perfect. From the show Parks and Recreation. Remind me.
Perfect. Park Superintendent.
Park Superintendent. I'm sorry. And we have Attorney Manachi Mori. Did I get that correct?
You did.
Okay, thank you. And we have Donna Suarez here for a presentation. And I think that's all I see on my screen. If there's anyone else, they can let me know. Okay. Anybody else? No? Going once? All right. Oh, you know what? Before I start, I think we must mention something very important. Today is Director Looney's birthday, and he is spending it with us doing a snow presentation. So instead of singing, I think we all say at once, happy birthday. How's that?
Happy birthday.
Because I think singing might ruin the, we don't want that rebroadcast at any point. So it's a call to order. Do we do a call to order? Do we do an actual call to order? I'm on cold meds, so I'm not really at my best.
You're good.
Okay. So the first agenda item is a presentation by the birthday man himself, Mike Looney, Director of Parks and Public Works. Oh, no, just Public Works. That was a Freudian slip. And Patrell Mailer, the Deputy Director of Public Works. It's our snow operations for 2021. It's in a PowerPoint that was with the agenda. So I could, Mike, are you going to share it to the screen?
Yeah, I made like one or two edits, so I'm just gonna share my screen directly. I'll go ahead and do that now.
Sounds good.
All right. Okay, slideshow. Okay, can everybody see that?
Yep.
All right, good. Thank you, Madam Chair, and council members. Pleased to be here tonight to give an overview of our public works snow operations for this coming winter 2021-2022. Going to look very similar to previous years. We have a few minor changes that have occurred, but looking forward to the opportunity to discuss our snow operations as we do every year. So basically we have about 15 slides here. We'll do this brief introduction, go through the operations, preparation and removal of snow, the forecasting, post-storm sidewalk snow and ice clearance, the parking ban and blue light programs, which are also tied into the bullet point on towing, and have a closing slide with our points of contact for this coming winter season. So I think everyone knows who we are and what we're about. We have budgeted 207 positions in all these different divisions that we have within the department itself. So snow operations is just one of the many things that we are involved doing all around the year. The city, again, this has not changed since last year. We're still 18 square miles. We still have roughly 217 centerline miles of city maintained roads. There's also 53 miles of roads that the state maintains. And we have about 1.25 square miles of city maintained pavement. So it's a considerable amount of that 18 square miles is made up of road surface that we have to take care of and make sure are free and clear of snow and ice. We also have almost 400 miles of sidewalk in the public right of way, of which 26, a little over 26 centerline miles of sidewalk are our responsibility to clear. So it's a significant challenge every year to cover this much area, but we try to do the best we can and always seek ways to improve our operations. In the snow preparation phase, when we're watching a storm get ready to come in, this is something we started doing last year with the acquisition of a brine machine and the development of 2 brine trucks. This is similar to what the state does on the highways. You'll see those little streams, about 5 or 6 of them, that go down the center of a lane on the highway, and that's the brine that's being put down, which is a mix of water, calcium chloride, and or magnesium chloride. So we start doing that. Usually, if we have a nice dry day before a storm comes in, we'll do it the day before. It's not as effective if you put it down when conditions are already wet, but if you can get the salt water down on the pavement before the precipitation starts, it does help keep the accumulation at bay, at least in the initial phase of our storms. Active plow operation starts approximately at about 2 inches of accumulation. Before that, if we have less than 2, we'll just simply salt the roads and observe what's going on. But once we get up to that 2-inch or so level, we put the blades down. And our post-storm treatment, after the storm ends and the roads are plowed curb to curb, we put down additional salt, so that the road salt, so that we don't have a freeze up or any slick spots left over after the storm has passed. The snow removal operation, this is something that traditionally have been done primarily in downtown, starting about 24 hours after a storm ends. We're doing it in more and more locations now, particularly high traffic intersections where you may end up with, in our heavier storms, mounds or pyramids of snow at the corners that can block the line of sight for drivers, as well as prevent pedestrians from utilizing crosswalks and handicap ramps as part of the sidewalk system. So we're doing more and more of that each year, I would say. We have about 4 removal teams that go out with dump trucks and payloaders and scoop up the large piles of snow and truck them away to one of our disposal snow lots that we have around the city. As I mentioned, the vital traffic and high volume areas are a priority. In the past, that was more downtown, but we're expanding out into other main corridors throughout the city just to provide a little bit better service. Crew district assignment priorities can really change by weather and event schedules. Unfortunately, we have no control over when storms come in. Sometimes they like to start at 2 a.m. Other times they like to start in the middle of rush hour. So we have to be flexible and pretty nimble in terms of how we adjust our operations based upon the exact timing of each storm. The city is divided into 6 districts, 1 through 6. We have our residential streets and then our targeted, what we call A route arterials. Those are the major streets: Weathersfield, Franklin, Maple, Farmington Asylum, North Main, Park Street, and several others. There are a total of 30 plow routes, 4 in each of the 6 districts. That gets you 24 residential routes, and then the 6 districts each have their own A route pattern that we run. On top of that, we have about 280 other locations, which includes crosswalks, parking lots, sidewalks around municipal facilities, and other city property that the city owns, such as some vacant lots and some blighted properties. So again, it's a considerable operation trying to get to all of these places and make sure everything is acceptably clear. For forecasting, we use a number of resources. We have a contracted service with WeatherWorks, which is I think a Northeast regional forecasting operation. They provide us updates on a fairly regular 6-hour basis through the course of a storm. Obviously, the National Weather Service and other major sites like Weather Underground and AccuWeather are priorities for us in terms of comparing and contrasting the different forecasts that you see. Everyone's always a little bit different, so you kind of want to look at who are the outliers, and then where do the others kind of congregate around a mean forecast. Obviously, we also utilize our local news media as well, who often have additional insight because they're familiar with the area and some of the microclimate conditions that we get. There have been storms where we've had 2 inches of snow down in South Meadows, and we've had 7 inches up in Blue Hills. So it can vary quite a bit. So we have to be aware of that as well. Snow, sidewalk, and ice clearance through our sidewalk system. Under city ordinance, sidewalks need to be cleared of snow and ice within 6 hours of the end of a winter weather event, unless the event ends after sunset, in which case property owners have until 9 a.m. the following morning to clear their sidewalks. And failure to do so can result in an issuance of a notice of violation if it's not cleared within, usually we give about 24 hours for folks to respond to the NOV and correct the condition. If it's not corrected, then it accrues a $99 fine per day. We've gotten considerably more aggressive with this over, I say, since about 2019, when we really ramped up our sidewalk enforcement operation. So that will continue this year. One problem that we have almost without fail every year is the pushing of large amounts of snow by private contractors out into the roadways. The picture on this slide is on Church Street over by the Civic Center. And this, you can see this creates an obvious problem when an entire travel lane is taken out. So we understand that during the night contractors need to temporarily store their snow somewhere until the dump truck comes for the payloader to load up and take away the snow. But we can't have this kind of condition, obviously, during our rush hour morning commute period of 5:30 to 9:30 a.m. And we generally try to keep this under control. It's only in the small hours of the night where perhaps we'll be a little bit more lenient, knowing that the dump trucks are usually coming shortly thereafter we spot a condition and hauling the snow away. So that is a $99 fine if you are caught pushing snow out into the public right of way. Parking ban, which is again, it's a necessary inconvenience. We don't like to do it, but if we don't do it, in a lot of cases, we're just not going to get the streets into the kind of condition that we need them to be in. Hartford is more difficult with a parking ban in this city because we have so much on-street parking, and many of our residents rely on having that on-street space in order to have a place to put their vehicles. So we are sensitive to that unique characteristic of a city that's built and developed like Hartford is. But again, as the second bullet said, this cars keep us from being able to really make the roads in the condition that they need to be in. Anyone in violation of the ban is subject to a ticketing and towing operation that we coordinate with Hartford Parking Authority and with HPD. So for the parking bans, we have a process that we roll out. We usually make the decision around, we have around 4 inches of snow or more we're generally going to have a parking ban. That can fluctuate depending on the timing of the storm and some other factors. But we start off by activating our blue light lots, our blue lights that we can find at major intersections around the city. We go around and our team opens the snow lots, which I'll get to that list of lots in a minute. We open the gates and get those ready. We usually try to do this about 6 to 12 hours before the parking ban actually goes into effect. We work with our community engagement office, Janice Castle, about getting updates out and social media and traditional news media alerts. Put the police on notice that we're going to be doing a ticketing and towing operation, and they in turn notify the tow operators to get ready as well. And again, this is just an old picture of one of our blue lights and the signs that you will see up in the major intersections accompanying those lights. This year we have again a number of designated snow parking lots for residents. We try to have them distributed fairly evenly throughout the city, but there are a significant number of lots with 50 to 100 spaces. Generally, we have a large parking garage on as part of the learning corridor, which has up to about 600 spaces. That is a good resource being centrally located in the city. In addition, we have our city parks. We keep our parking lots open. And the major ones are Colt Park, Elizabeth Park, Goodwin Park, Keeney Park, and Pope Park, which all have over anywhere from 100 to 150 spaces available for folks to park in. And then the smaller parks as well, we have some additional spaces in there. Public schools, the lots for public schools will also be available during parking bans for residents to park in. The only exceptions this year are Bulkley High School, which is under construction, the Burns School, which I also believe is currently in construction project, and the former Milner School at 104 Vine Street, which will be used as a warming center this winter. So those Board of Ed properties will be off the list, but all other schools should be available for folks to park into the parking lots. So during parking ban, what you don't want to be is these two guys here. When the HPD will arrive with the tow trucks, they generally do flashing lights and announcements via their PA system to tell residents that they're going to start ticketing and towing. We've actually had pretty good compliance once if we get a street, if we see a street when we're driving around when it's getting time to plow and we're not having good compliance with the parking ban, and we alert the police to it. When they start going down the streets, you'll see a lot of folks coming out and moving their cars, which we certainly appreciate. We don't like having to ticket and individuals and even tow them, even less. But it is something we need to do in order to get the streets open for us to do our work. And again, just as summary, as Director of Public Works, I oversee this whole operation. Jason Sutherland, one of our supervisors who's in the streets division, will be our snow commander this year, and Patrell Mailer will be supporting me and Jason in our operations during snow and winter weather situations. So that is pretty much end of my presentation. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and happy to answer any questions you have.
Well, it was very, very good. Where's Nick? Is he there? There he is. Councilman LeBron, I'll start with you.
Yes, through you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Director, for the presentation. Quick question. There was a slide that said 4 inches previously. Is that the case? Like it has to reach 4 inches before the parking ban comes into effect?
The short answer is no. It can vary. Again, depending on the timing of the storm and some other factors. This year, I'm leaning towards instituting parking bans at maybe closer to a 3-inch level. Just the 4 inches, if we hold off from doing a parking ban at 4 inches, we do have situations where it can get kind of bad on the roads. So I'm trending more towards a 3-inch threshold, but it's kind of a judgment call by a lot of different folks. I will consult with the mayor and the COO, as well as Hartford Parking Authority and HPD, and also one of the other important considerations we have to take into account is the Board of Education, because since their school lots are being used during parking bans, if we have to institute a parking ban, they don't have a whole lot of time to get their lots clear and ready for the next school day. So we can have situations where we would impact the school schedules that we also have to take into account. Generally, we have fairly well-attended meetings when we make that decision. We don't just make that decision in a vacuum. Try to talk to as many people as possible to get the best read on the situation.
Thank you, Director. I just say on that slide that has the 4 inches, I know you had an image there. I would just take that off, because if somebody saw the slide, they would think that it's a 4 inches. So just a novel, just recommendation. The second question is in terms of sidewalks as it is deemed with, I would say public or maybe city responsibility as compared to the businesses. So last year there was some constituents on the Woodland Street area and that housing area and the Betty Knox area and that area where we had that bridge that wasn't plowed. And I'm not sure who's responsible. I assume it's our responsibility, but folks had to walk in the streets because that wasn't plowed. And it's particularly dangerous because it's a hill and you don't see what you can't see coming over that hill. How does that work? How is that? Is that our responsibility? I assume it is. How do we better manage that? It's just a question.
Through you, Madam Chair. Yes, that is our responsibility. And we try to prioritize locations like that. There are occasions where we'll have equipment issues. We like to do those bridges with a certain piece of equipment that can do them relatively quickly and efficiently. So we have had some issues with those in the past. And what we're doing is we have a significant number of staff members on the sidewalk crew, but we are trying to add to that this year with some outside help through some nonprofits who could provide additional labor so that we can get around to those 279 locations faster than we may have been able to in the past. That was one thing I kind of took away from last snow season too, was we did have some issues with pedestrian locations that we're trying to do a better job of this year.
And thank you, Director, of course. I know it's a daunting task. So like, is there, of the 279, if there's a prioritization list, if that Woodland Bridge can be one? Because that was definitely one last year that brought a lot of concerns and potential hazards with it. So the next question through you, Madam Chair, is the relationship with the police. I know that there's like fines that are associated with businesses and residents that don't plow their sidewalks. How does that relationship work? Do you flag that or is there anyone out there that's flagging that for the police who then can follow up? Again, not in the goal of trying to fine residents, but in the goal of trying to make walking and folks that are disabled being able to walk to school, get to where they need to go, just from a pedestrian standpoint.
For you, Madam Chair, we actually have developed a team within Public Works, and we do that, the issuance of NOVs and fines ourselves. HPD is generally not involved with that, although in certain circumstances where we have a large volume of cases like that, I think we could certainly ask them to assist. But under the city code, my office has the ability to and the power to issue these. So we've developed a system with 6 folks from our office, several of whom are inspectors and are, you know, in nice weather are out checking road patches that need to be repaired by the utilities and things like that. But they go out there, each assigned, we have 6 of them. We have each one assigned to a specific district, one of the 6 districts, and they actually go out and drive around and do the enforcement. So we've got our folks doing that task right now. It's worked pretty well. I remember looking at the data at the end of last year, and we would issue an NOV, and we have door hanger signs that have the language from the ordinance and explain what's going on. And then we have ones that are actual violations, fines. So I think we found that we had a very high percentage. It was something like 75 to 80% compliance with the NOVs. So one of our guys would go out, they give someone an NOV for their sidewalk. The next day they drive by, the sidewalk would have been shoveled. So right there, case ends right there. And that was the case in probably about 75 or 80% of the folks that we issued NOVs for. So we had to issue some fines, but generally they were not excessive. So I was pleased with, you know, folks seem to get it. The properties we do have problems with are where we have absentee landlords. That can be difficult. And the ones that particularly bother me are the commercial properties where, you know, it's let's say a national retailer, and they're not shoveling their sidewalk. And I know they have the means to be able to do it. And those are the ones, you know, we really try to pinpoint, and we have specific ones that we know in every storm have been problematic, and those are the first ones our guys will often go to see, did they get any better this storm, and if not, you know, we hit them again. So
Thank you, Director. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Councilman Sanchez has joined us. Any other council members have any questions? Councilman Gale, then Councilman Surgeon, and then Councilman Sanchez.
You. Just picking up on those last comments, Director Looney, the fines that you mentioned, do those fines become liens against the property?
my understanding is that yeah, we send those out. We issue the invoices from our office, and I believe they're supposed to become liens on property if not paid. We do have as we have to with any sort of issuance of a fine or a citation, we have an appeals process that we coordinate with Corp Counsel, and they have independent folks who come in as hearing officers. And so sometimes we go and the hearing officer says, you know, they're going to fine for the property owner. Other times they fine for us. So we have that process as well.
Thank you. Also, you know, from the citizens' perspective, so, you know, I know this has happened to me, probably to others. I hear Councilman LeBron talking about the bridge on Woodland Street. For me, walking the dog in the morning, and here's this group of college students that are renting the house down the street, and these guys, you know, didn't shovel whatsoever last year. Sometimes it was 4 days. I used 311, but it didn't seem to me to be terribly effective. Is 311 going to get it to that crew of 6, or is there a better way for a member of the public to call in a problem property?
So you, Madam Chair, we've used the 311 lists on a daily basis as kind of our go-to sheet to start off with. I mean, there may have been some properties that our folks just weren't able to get to in time, but we have been using the data that's on 311 to kind of target our enforcement efforts. So I would continue to encourage folks to go that route.
Okay, thank you. 2 more questions, if I may, Madam Chair. Hopefully quick. I know we had a comment that was asked in the chat room about the bollards on Weathersfield Avenue. I think everybody wants to know what's going on with them, because you look at them and you go, how in the world are they going to plow around these things? So how in the world are you going to plow around those things?
The answer is very carefully. We've, this was a question that's been kind of bouncing around since we put up some of these traffic calming measures on Hampton Street up in the northeast neighborhood, and then obviously Weathersfield Avenue being a fairly extensive installation. My take on it is there are other cities that do these traffic calming measures and keep them up year round that also get snow. So we can figure out a way to do that. And in fact, what we just did this past Friday was we had a dry run of our snow operations, and we just pretended that it was a snow day and there was a storm going on. And so that gave our drivers the chance to go out and run their routes, find where all the new speed humps had been installed. We got all new maps for our map books to show the drivers that, on the street, you got to slow down. You make sure you keep an eye out for the new speed humps. And it also gave them a chance to navigate through the traffic calming measures, like those lane delineators on Weathersfield Avenue. For that bicycle lane that is lane delineated, what we're probably going to do is use a small piece of equipment, either a trackless or a toolcat or bobcat, to simply just go down at the end of the storm after the snow has been plowed out of the street, send that smaller piece of equipment starting at around Elliott Street, and then just go up the bike lane and plow that out onto the curb, onto the sidewalk, on the snow shelf, all the way up to Willis Street. So we're gonna keep, seeing how that goes and make adjustments as we need to. But I just felt that these measures were too critical in terms of protecting, the health and welfare of the city's residents to take them out during the winter. So we just have to slow down, be a little bit more careful, be aware of these things, and come up with a plan that works. I think we're in a good place, but we'll, the first snowstorm will really be the test, and then we'll have to evaluate after that.
Thank you for that. Last question. Are there any environmental concerns with using the calcium chloride and the magnesium chloride and even the road salt? I mean, I assume ultimately these things wash off the street and into the sewer and get down to the MDC and maybe into the Connecticut River. What do we know about any of that?
Well, I'm not aware of any environmental concerns. None have been raised to me. I mean, ultimately, if they essentially wash into the catch basins, into the combined sewer system, and go to the treatment plant down in South Meadows. So I think through that process, there's some mitigation, and it's a material that's used throughout New England, by many towns, and obviously state DOTs as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Surgeon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Director Looney, thank you very much for your presentation. I've always enjoyed your snow presentation. I've been to one in person a couple of times, and it's been quite interesting. So thank you very much for doing this and reaching out to the community. A couple of my questions were answered, but one of the questions which I've had is the 6 hours after a storm that you need to clean your sidewalks. I'm at work at 9 o'clock in the morning. How do I, and I do my snow myself. What about for residents who are not home? Are you actually the 6 hours? Is that really like hard, fast numbers that you go around and check?
Through you, Madam Chair, in some storms, we do understand that if we get 24 inches of snow, it's going to be harder for people to get their sidewalks clear than if it's 4 inches of snow. So I would say in the instance where we have a lighter snowstorm, we would probably be pretty close to that 6 hour threshold to go out and check. I think if we had one of those major blizzards, large snowfalls, we would obviously, there would be some leniency in how quickly we would do the enforcement, with the realization that it's a lot of snow to move and people need more time to do that. So we don't strictly adhere to the 6 hours. It's just after that point we have the jurisdiction to go out and start enforcing. Whether we actually do it at 6 hours and 1 minute, we usually don't. But we don't want to let too much time go by before we start trying to make the conditions safe. But it's a concern that is raised. And I think one of the things that helps ameliorate that is you don't get a fine immediately. You get a notice of violation. And that goes back to my earlier comment about how we saw, 75-80% compliance with the NOV. I think a lot of those cases may have been just what you described, which was we went out, we issued an NOV, the person was at work, they came home, they saw the NOV, and they said, "Oh, geez, I gotta clear my sidewalk." They cleared it. We came back the next morning, problem solved. Case is finished there. So I wouldn't be surprised if that was what was going on with a number of those cases.
Okay, thank you very much. I won't kill myself to run home then, within 6 hours and hurt myself. Fire hydrant. Who cleans out in front of the fire hydrant with the snow? Is it the property owner, which is close by the fire department? This was one of the questions for me.
Through you, Madam Chair, I believe the fire department does go around and do that. I'll confirm that with Chief Barco, but I believe that's generally what they do. They have the posts that they attach to them so that they can find them in the deeper snow. But I'll just make sure I'm 100% certain about that.
Okay, thank you. And just one last question through you, Madam Chair. Albany Avenue, I know that's a state highway. Do the city clean that, or is it state hiring their own people?
Through you, Madam Chair, that the state takes care of Albany Avenue because, as you said, it's a state road. So they take care of Blue Hills, Bloomfield Ave, Albany Ave, and then obviously when they come off of I-84, when they're doing the ramps on I-84, they often keep their plow blades down. So they actually help us on North Chapel and Morgan Street, just by the fact that they're going by and getting back onto the highway. So those are the areas where you generally see them. And also Airport Road is actually a minor state route, and they do plow that area as well.
Okay. So if there's any issues or concern, we contact the state and complain with them?
Yes, that would be the mechanism to do that.
And my only complaint through you, Madam Chair, is there a way to know when they're going to plow your street? You go out there and you clean your little dugout in front of your driveway, and you wake up the next morning and God forbid, Director, you can't get out of your driveway again because you guys just plowed me back in. How will we get, I know it's been a long-standing complaints for decades for myself. Is there, clean your sidewalk, but don't clean in front of your driveway? What is the answer to that?
Well, through Madam Chair, it's a difficult question because you can never exactly time when the plow is going to come by. But we're trying to work on a solution to that. And we're utilizing some new software through a company called Rubicon to help track our waste and recycling operations in terms of how much tonnage we take in per truck, and how long it's taking to do routes, and number of problems that we find along the routes. That system also has a component to it that allows for tracking of the dump trucks that we use as plow trucks. And what I'm trying to work my way towards is having a system where we can use this new technology and build something into the department website where you would literally have a map of the city and you could see where all the plows are at any given moment in time. And it would also show streets that have been done and streets that haven't been done. So that could at least give you a sense of, okay, where are these guys right now? And if I know if you can see that your street hasn't been done and you can see the plow is 2 streets away, maybe you wait until they get a chance to go by, and then it's going to be a while before they get back. So we're trying to look at technological things that could help the community better understand. But it pretty much it's a complaint with I think every DPW in the state. I know it was shoveling snow in New Haven when I was a kid was always frustrating. So I've been there. So we're trying to come up with new tools that might be able to give the community some more information in real time.
If you ever do, at least some information, that'd be awesome. So thank you so very much through you, Madam Chair. And thank you, Mr. Looney, for all you have done in making this. Last year, let me just say one thing. Last year, with the amount of snow we have, I thought your department did a fantastic and a great job. I was so proud of that I didn't get any complaints from my state my state workers that I work with to going in the office. So just want to let you know that you guys did an awesome job last winter. So thank you. Through you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Thank you. Councilman Sanchez.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the presentation, Director Looney. I appreciate that. Just a few questions. One of the questions, because of the flooding in the North End and in Blue Hills neighborhood specifically, I'd like to know, how is the catch basin going to be handled? I know we have the plow trucks going through, but sometimes the snow accumulates and it actually covers the grates of the catch basins. How are we going to handle that?
Through you, Madam Chair, well, we try to, when we're plowing, try to hit those catch basins. Well, as you noted appropriately, they do sometimes get clogged with snow and ice. And, as part of our post-storm inspections and checks of conditions, my thinking is that that's one of the things we go around and look for as part of our sidewalk enforcement is, are there any catch basins that are clogged? We can also utilize 311 and our own streets crews driving around, particularly during the snow removal process, to try to identify areas if there's flooding. For example, if we have a heavy snowfall and then either it turns to rain or it gets warm very fast and we have significant snow melt and then get run off into the streets. And that's something I think we would take on a case-by-case basis. And we know the areas that are prone to street flooding, so we can certainly focus on those as well.
Then my other thing, thank you for that. My other question is, there's still, not everyone, but once in a while you have a snowplow driver that's exceeding a certain speed limit when it comes to plowing. And to Councilwoman Shirley Surgeon's point, sometimes it's not only the apron that gets covered, but the snow is thrown right back into the sidewalk. Are the drivers trained, and are they, is that being enforced, that they understand there's a certain speed for plowing so that they don't throw all the snow back onto the sidewalk?
Through you, Madam Chair, yes, that is something we stress, that, when you're going down the streets, we don't want you to exceed, a certain speed depending on the width of the street and the classification of the street, whether it's a small residential neighborhood street or a major arterial. Speeds are a little bit different. But yes, that is something we try to stress. And obviously we do have instances where that is not adhered to. That's another thing about this additional technology that we're starting to employ now, is that, we can go back and check how fast somebody was actually going at a particular spot and look for instances of speeding in the data. So that helps us with employee training and addressing that issue appropriately with the driver in question.
And just to follow up on that, now I know there's a certain type of pattern for plowing. And I can understand, let's say for on your regular street, they probably kind of like start plowing from the center to the right, and then when they come back from the center to the left, right? But now when it comes to streets like let's say South Street that goes along the Goodwin Park, is there a pattern where rather than, so let's say we're going east on South Street, Goodwin Park is on your right, is it a possibility to have the plow driver plow from the farthest, so if we're going east, they're plowing on the left and pushing the snow towards the park rather than the houses, because there's plenty of room in the park area and they can pile all that snow that they plow, taking it away from the homes. Is there a possibility with that, or do you have that pattern already set up?
But through you, Madam Chair, I don't think we would drive in the eastbound or in the westbound lane going eastbound to push the snow over. But what we would do is when we come, we would start by coming westbound on South Street, and you angle the blade so that the snow gets pushed basically into the other lane, into the eastbound lane. And when you turn around and come back down going east, you turn the blade towards the park. And then all that snow that has now been pushed over from the north side of the street, it's now on the south side of the street, it just gets pushed into the park. So yeah, there are definitely ways to do it.
Okay, and then my last question, you mentioned that you're going to have the small equipment to handle the situation like on Weathersfield Avenue where all the posts and street calming is there. Now that to me, what that equates to me is that there's more labor involved. And is that a part of the budget, or is that going to increase the cost because it's more laborers now?
Through you, Madam Chair, I mean, we would do that through the same staff that we have now. There wouldn't be any budget impact to that. It's just one additional, instead of 279 now, we're at 281 places that we have to hit. So again, that would be something that I think we can, and something I had to take into consideration was that this was something we could do under our current operations plan without accruing any additional need for more folks or more dollars in terms of overtime and things like that. And since if we had that on every major street, I'd be more concerned. Since we have it on one major street and a couple of smaller streets, I'm fairly confident we can roll this into our normal operations.
Okay, but I believe it's safe to say that we may have more of this type of traffic calming in the future, so that might be something to consider for the future budget. And my very last question to you, Madam Chair. Have we added more blue lights throughout the city from what we had last year?
Through you, Madam Chair, no, we have not added any additional lots. We're looking at that now because there were a couple in the recent past that we have now lost, such as the lot at Park and Main with the new development there. And there were one or two other properties that went offline. I believe Francis Court over by New Park also went off of the list. That's a smaller lot, with more like 20 spaces, which is less of an impact than Park and Main. But we're going to continue to look for opportunities to expand blue light inventory that we have.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilman. I see that Assistant Director Stewart from Recreation has joined us. Director Looney, first of all, I want to thank you for the presentation tonight on your birthday. I want to really commend you on hearing about the technology piece and how to really adjust to what people have been talking about for a long time in a newer way. I'm really excited that you're addressing, how you'll deal with the traffic calming and the new pieces that have been put together in different areas with Jersey barriers and roundabouts, and that your department continues to be open to suggestions, information, and it's not lost on any of us. So We really appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Madam
Our
Chair.
next, and don't feel like you have to stay, even though I know everyone wants to see Donna's presentation, but it is your birthday. So our next presentation is from Donna Stoir, the chair of Friends of Colt Park, and she is up next.
Okay, so I've unmuted and now I'm going to try to share the presentation. Let's see if it works. Okay, can you see it? Uh-oh. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good. I'm so sorry. I couldn't tell there. Everything was so quiet. So the first screen is just simply to introduce you to the Colt Park Foundation board. We're transitioning from the Friends of Colt Park to the foundation. Pretty much, you know, we had always been.
Hold on a minute. Are we seeing the presentation?
Yeah, can you see it?
Why can't I see it?
Oh, it says you.
Okay, I got it. Never mind. Got it.
Thank you. Good. Thanks for checking. So what we found is that our board was always very, I call it activity oriented. And we really didn't do, I'll say, a lot of fundraising. We did very small amounts. And we decided that we needed to up our game. So pretty much, we're going to continue to advocate for the park and residents, organize community events. We advocate for projects. And what does that mean? We attend meetings, hold meetings, etc. In the future, we hope to obtain an agreement with the city so that we can actually be less annoying to city staff and hopefully finance some or assist with some low maintenance tasks, which would be agreed upon in the agreement with the city. I think the rest of it, I pretty much, you know, had said. This presentation, the very last item was about the event that was last weekend, so I'll just skip over. These are the kinds of things that we do. We paint picnic tables, we fundraise, we do cleanups, we organize. We have a little library that is, I'll say, refilled. It was extremely popular this summer. It's dropped off a little bit this fall, but that's understandable. We had a trunk or treat that was amazing. And we plant bulbs, and we asked for vaccine clinics to come into the park during our, I call it some of our bigger days. And we also had a really nice presentation or an art exhibit about, it was called the Museum of the Old Colony. So we did hold an improvement survey. We tried desperately to have meetings in person in the park, and the weather this summer was awful. So we had to hold Zoom meetings, and they were pretty successful. Then we put the survey out onto our social media. We sent it out via an email disc list, etc. People that were included were Yes City Council, Friends of Colt Park list, neighborhood groups like SysCon, and we had it out in the Hartford News to let people know that we were going to do it. We also distributed the survey at the swimming pool when there was going to be, I call it a little bit different audiences, and we got 104 responses. So I was going to give you a history, but I don't think I really need to. It talks about how we came about with the money and the larger projects that have happened over the past 4 years. These are the list of fundraising efforts to the present. As you can see, they're pretty small amounts of money. They're all under 10,000. The unfinished phase 1 elements we felt had a priority. And that would be, there's a couple of softball fields that were not regraded. They need to be, regraded and seeded. Also, the Clemente field needs another layer of clay. And let's see. So essentially what happened was we got some nice prioritization of projects. People were asked to vote for 3 items. And I think that it went pretty well. So the results are actually, if you go all the way to the bottom, because that's where the bigger numbers are, I did a combined, and then I did another chart of just residents, sorting them. But they come out, extremely close. So walkways have the biggest priority. People who go to the park have found that some of the walkways are severely eroded. The one leading us up from the pool up to Wethersfield Avenue has several lifted sidewalks more than 6 inches. The one reaching over into from, I'll say, the like Playscape over to Stonington is in really rough shape. So those are things that people complained about the most. The pool, as I think most of you know, our pools, I know that there's going to be a report coming out about the condition of the pools and recommendations, but that's a really high priority. Many of the pools are leaking like sieves, and we have like mini pools out in the fields. The concession stand was of high interest. The bathrooms are not open. We also would like to have a place where people can go and buy some, I'll call it snack type things, beverages. And then the Wethersfield Avenue fencing has deteriorated, and we have many sections that are missing and heavily damaged. And next came trees. The north entrance and fence, and what we're talking about there is Stonington. There are a lot of those mafia blocks, which are really, really ugly. And the people who live in Dutch Point are rather tired of looking at them. So I think that I really hit on, I call it the big items. And so those are our, I call it biggest, most wanted items. But we did have some other suggestions. Somebody said food trucks. We do have food trucks in the park on Sundays. They have permits. And so I'm not really sure what somebody was trying to say. Somebody thought that we should have a full service restaurant and a vintage baseball museum. But the baseball fields, and which is the same as Johnny Taylor, by the way. So people are really hoping for lights on the field, lights over by the basketball courts. Litter is an issue still, but it's really improved dramatically. And then people are concerned about having enough employees at DPW to maintain the parks. Once we, really spiffed up the park, it's going to require a lot more maintenance, and we don't want it to go back to the way it was. We have an issue currently with the handball courts. We always had problems with illegal drug use and, how do I say it, prostitution. And then we started to have a serious uptick in the homeless moving into the that area. So it had to be locked up. And so we're looking for a solution for that problem. Someone said we just need new gates, and someone said a place for dirt bikes and ATVs. I will say that the park, Colt Park, is much too congested. We have a lot of people, and we also have those fields that we just put in, and they each cost more than $400,000, and I can't see allowing dirt bikes or ATVs really to be running around. But we did have, as I said, quite a few people did give some other ideas, and I don't want to dismiss them. It's just that many of them we already, knew about them, and they are included in several of the, I'll say, issues that we're trying to address. So how did the Colt Park Foundation, aside from, I call it this list where people just voted, we started to think about, okay, how many people are going to benefit? How much is the overall cost? Is it a safety hazard, or is there going to be a financial consequence if we don't do something? And then we also look at the parks by categories: landscaping, structures, trees, active athletic support, and passive use. Shade structure is a good example. So I put here comments. DPW has approved refinishing the walls and flooring for the handball courts, which is desperately needed, but we need to figure out how we're going to be able to make sure that the continued issue with drug use, et cetera, and graffiti are going to be, I'll say, under control. So I think that's pretty much it. I pretty much, I'll be repeating myself if I read you the list again. That is pretty much the presentation.
Thank you, Donna.
So I'll try to stop sharing.
There you go. There we go. Thank you very much. And I know how much time and effort you put into that. And obviously it shows by the movement. Are there any questions from my colleagues? Councilman LeBron.
Hello, Donna. I think you and I have been talking about this for a long time. I think you know what the question I'm going to ask is on warming. We have that hill that goes down. Any comments or folks or developments or plans in the future to put stairs down for folks so that they don't have to go down that steep hill? I know the intent right now is to go in through the traditional entrances, but I think the folks in the community are telling us that it's such a long block that we need spaces in order to walk down. Your thoughts on that?
Okay, so I honestly, I reached out to people and asked them, and they didn't give me feedback on that. I did email all of the football leagues because they're the people who have been asking about that. The soccer leagues don't really seem to care. The high school leagues don't seem to care. I honestly, I reached out to them and they did not come back with anything. In our master plan, we don't have it there because again, in 2016, it wasn't brought up either. But with that, we do, I don't have any problems with putting it in except money, of course. The other issue is the Mary Memorial. Okay. Does everybody know what I'm talking about? It's somebody thought they saw Mary.
The Virgin Mary Memorial, yes.
Okay. So that's a really, it's all messed up. There's not a single statue that is intact. Okay. It really looks awful. And I would love to have, and believe it or not, under Mayor Segarra, many years ago, he asked for a design to be drawn up for an entrance, exactly what you're talking about. And so we have a design for it. We just don't seem to have enough people coming forward to really talk about it and stamp their feet. There will be issues with ADA access with that hill. It will be really, really, really long ramps or many switchbacks in order to make it ADA compliant. And that's I think the biggest issue we really ran into. And it will, with all those switchbacks, take up a considerable amount of space on the hill, which doesn't bother me at all either, because it all needs to get cleaned up. So that hill is problematic. I think trillions of rodents live in that dike. I will say that I'm a little nervous about disturbing it, but I don't have anything against stairs going down. But every time I put the call out and I specifically reach out to these groups, they never come back with anything. So that's a little frustrating. And it's not like I don't know them. We talk all the time. What I hear about is, the lack of lights. That's the feedback they gave me. The lack of lights on the football fields and the soccer fields. Because right now they're lining up their cars in the parking lot and aiming them at the field.
No, I definitely agree with that. As a former football coach, I've been under that same auspices where we had to pull together a bunch of parents to put lights. So I definitely agree with that. Can you send me the design? Do you have copies of the previous design? If you could send that to to me or to everyone here,
Sure.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Sanchez.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you, Madam Chair. So this area that you're talking about, which is I know exactly where it's at, where the the St. Mary Virgin Mary entrance, right? That's not a true entrance. That's just a path that folks taken and started using on their own, yeah, on their own, on their own chances or whatever, right? So, but in reality, not in reality, excuse me for that, but I thought that Coles Park has already been, with the ADA compliance, has already been completed.
No. In the design, we designated a couple of parking areas, and everything new that is going in has ADA included. But when it comes to the entrances, I think that, the gates are wide enough, okay, the ones that we have. A wheelchair, walker, all of that can fit through. Of course, we're making it just as much as we have to because we're trying to keep out the motorcycles and the ATVs. But when we put in those stairs, it would, I believe, that was what in the design, okay, that Mayor Segarra had. It included ADA access. But we really do struggle with that in all of our parks.
Right. Okay. So then we're not completely ADA compliant.
No.
At Coles Park.
No.
Okay. And then, but then going back to the other entrance, that's just a makeshift entrance that the community created.
Yes, and I'll say that it's extremely problematic because now there's some homeless people who have moved in to that area, and I would definitely not use that path.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Is there any other comments from my colleagues? No, I don't have anybody left. And I do believe our next agenda item is other business. And if there is no other business, I would make a motion to adjourn. And thank you, everyone. Thank you, Donna. Thank you, Public
Second
Works.
the motion.
Thank you, Roy. There's a second. We're all in favor. Everyone have a good evening, and we'll see y'all soon. Thank you.
Good night.
Night.
Thank you.